I'm sorry it looks like I'm recording on an 80s camera today. I'm going ahead and trying to record on my laptop just to see what works. Because my editor on my phone is absolute bullshit. So I'm hoping it'll be better on my laptop. But I don't know. I'll have to figure things out. Anyway, if you can see it, I am wearing a shirt with our crew on it. It's even got normal right there. Fortunately, the graphic has almost completely worn off. And I might end up having to buy another one. Oh well. So, what this video is actually about, well, in my last video, I mentioned making an update video wherein we discussed a very peculiar episode of the Garfield show. Peculiar meaning a pretty gross one. It's called Normal's First Kiss, and it's part of the Wildlife, or at least that's what I call it, the Wildlife series, this 4-part special. In a weird way, it's both my favorite and least favorite in the series. And like I said before, it is awfully ambitious for this show, given just how low budget it is to even try to do 4-part specials like this. So I'll go ahead and address the good parts first. Mainly being that there's just some really cute moments that I absolutely cherish. We got the normal Garfield and Odie trio here. It's centered all around them, and I really do love their dynamic. I would love to see how Arlene plays within the group here. And this does make me miss her a little bit, but honestly, they do say 3 is the magic number for a reason, and these guys do just make an absolutely perfect trio. They just work. I can't entirely explain it. All I can say is I just wish we had more Garfield media with this very specific trio. Now, on to the bad here, and on to focusing on the specific episode I'm talking about. Cause, oh boy. For all that we see in cartoons with questionable dynamics like Chowder and Panini, and while these are full-on debated, I'm honestly surprised there's not even a real discussion around this episode. And let me prepare you guys. If you thought Chowder and Panini was bad, if that made you uncomfortable, you may not even be able to sit through this episode, even if you're a diehard normal hater. I'm kind of procrastinating on getting into this, but let's just get into it. Now in this episode, it begins with the boys finding themselves in the swamp area after being chased by a bear. And, of course, where there's a swamp, there's alligators. So this alligator nearly eats Normal, so we think, and everyone is absolutely terrified. And that's when a little frog comes in and saves Normal. This frog is named Fan, and we find out that she had been stalking Normal, believing him to be her white knight or prince or whatever, just because he likes his perfume? What? Is she attracted to normal somatic narcissism? What? Anyway, in return for saving Normal, she immediately tries to coax him into kissing her. And as I was writing this script, it did dawn on me, because I'm an idiot, that this is supposed to be a Princess and the Frog parody type thing. But honestly, I don't even like Princess and the Frog that much. I like the Disney movie, like the 2D one, but like the actual original story, I gotta be honest, I don't like it that much. I do find it weird. So maybe go on Twitter and rant about me being too woke, because I also just really hate this episode. There's no other way to say it. And it's not that she merely tries to coax him into a kiss, but it's also that we're supposed to see Normal as being bad for not wanting to kiss this frog girl he literally just met. I think we can see the problem here, but it gets worse, because just as Normal is about to give into the peer pressure and actually kiss this frog, the alligator cheers, and that's when we learn this entire situation was set up for the entire purpose of Fan coaxing Normal into kissing her. Let that sink in for a moment. Obviously Normal is deeply upset by this. He obviously doesn't like frogs in the first place because he finds them gross. But now he's beyond justified in hating Fan. Trust me, I do too. This is beyond effed up. This should honestly be the true beginning of Normal's villain arc. But Fan herself isn't her villain arc, to be completely honest. So you might wonder what happens next. Does the group ditch these girls? Do they even fight them? Do they tell them to F off? Nope, they don't. And this is still a kid's show, if you can believe it. Nope. Instead, Fan goes on a self-pitying monologue about being unattractive, and honestly, if the genders were reversed, I don't think this episode would have even been allowed to play on TV, and I really do mean that. It's so incredibly incel coded. There's no other way to put it. It's creepy. It may not be that big of a deal in the broad scheme of things, but nonetheless, I'm calling a spade a spade. This is a creepy episode. So, Normal, being ever the bleeding heart, and the victim in this situation, I need to remind you, he feels bad for this little incel, and decides to sing her a song. And, of course, the message of the song in isolation is good. And it's a sweet moment from Normal, and I actually do think he has not the worst singing voice. It's not the best either. And then, as he's finishing up the song, however, Fan forces a kiss on him. And Monique, the alligator, also tries to force a kiss on Odie. Well, they don't say drain the swamp for nothing. At least they provide some kind of way to get them out of the swamp, because predators like that in the woods, you definitely want to get the hell out of there. Sheesh. Now, I have to clarify, I don't think the writers meant anything bad in this episode. I don't think they were trying to make it creepy. I honestly just think they were following tropes that were heavily normalized at this time. And we're trying to force in a Princess and the Frog inspired story into this 4-part special that honestly really didn't need a little mini arc like that. I just think it would have benefited them to do something else. I also just don't think they thought too hard about it. This is just the kind of thing that didn't age well at all. Again, let's think about characters like Panini and Chowder. It was just a trope at the time. All that being said, I can completely imagine Fan and Monique as antagonists in Garfield Pet Force, which again, I have to say is just so underrated. And I actually have a character design for Fan as a villain. I might put it up here if I can find it. And I guess I can imagine them that way because they are very much reminiscent of the Kinker sisters and Ed and Eddie. So Petco, if you're willing to bite, I'll send you on over my designs. I came up with this idea, so if you want to use it, hopefully you can write them better and give me some freaking money. Anyway, my real question and point in this video is simply this. And it's a simple question. Why? Well, I've already explained why. It's because this was just a trope at the time. Very weirdly common trope. Another good example is Amy Rose in Sonic. Of course, that's a whole can of beans within itself, or can of worms within itself. How'd I screw that one up? But overall, just looking at this trope overall, I don't like it. But what's the reason for this trope's existence? Fans' fantasy. Well, obviously not all men, but certainly a prominent few within the cartoon industry. And I can't help but think it's tied to the whole manic pixie dream girl thing. In fact, you can even say a lot of these stalker girls are manic pixie dream girls. But again, why? I try not to be too judgmental of people's fantasies. I just think at the end of the day, you should do you. But I also think it's good and healthy to have some self-awareness. And when you have a stalker fantasy, maybe it's just worth sitting down with a therapist and get to the root of why you dream about that. But then again, I don't have this particular fantasy, so I guess I just can't fully understand that, and I'm just trying to give my best guess here. And my best guess is that I would say this has to do with a desire to have someone who sees you as the center of their universe to the point of full obsession. And phrasing like that does make it sound pretty narcissistic, but I would say, and I have to add, that this particular kind of narcissism actually comes from a place of insecurity and some sort of inferiority complex. So these type of fantasies are basically overcompensation for that. But then again, I can't say that everyone with this fantasy is a narcissist or even has something that can be diagnosed. But I do understand that a lot of fantasies exist as coping mechanisms, and coping mechanisms exist due to some sort of something that happened to you. But then again, a mere fantasy is one thing, but what I hate about this really is putting your weird fantasies in children's cartoons. Should we remember, shows like the Garfield show are made for children, and this might get some people telling me it's not that deep, but my concern is really that this sends a bad message. And is the Garfield show itself to blame for that? No, but this is a problem I've continued to see throughout several cartoons, and this kind of trope exists even into today. So while this episode isn't the main source of this problem, it is a symptom of it. and I just don't think it's right. And one of these days I might make a video going to the entire rabbit hole of all of the weird stuff that ends up going into children's cartoons. I don't really want to, so I'm not really particularly planning on it, but I'm hoping that my viewers here can at least be a little bit more aware of that. But at the end of the day, this does involve Nermal, so of course I had to talk about it. It's not like I already made an hour and a half long video on this guy. Oh well, I'm a Nermal apologist through and through. There's no hiding it. But it's just worth saying, Nermal was the victim here. I'm objectively right. If you don't agree with me, you're a not nice person. Oh well, this has been fortunately a shorter video from Celestial Art Time. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys will check out my channel. And goodbye.